Mom got married to my stepdad when I was 16, and he moved in with us. She had been with him since I was 13. After dating for 3 years, they got married and moved in together. Even before they got married, my stepsister was a big problem. When my stepdad moved in, she got even worse, annoying me all the time and starting more fights. I told my mom many times and even talked to her dad about it, but they said it was just normal fighting between siblings and didn't do anything about it. The truth is they both loved my stepsister more. My stepdad always took her side because she was his real daughter, and even my mom treated her better than me. Hello, dear viewers, I am Camila, and I just turned 19 a few days ago. Before I continue my story, please make sure to subscribe to our channel as we are half away from 1,000 subscribers. Thanks. Let's start the journey. At home, it's me, my mom Diane, my stepdad Richard, and my stepsister Olivia, who is 14. Honestly, she's the worst, always trying to outdo me, acting snobby and mean. We've never gotten along. My dad passed away when I was little, so I barely remember him, but I sure do remember all the arguing with my mom. Sometimes I think if my dad were still here, things might have been easier. It hurt because she never did the same for me. As I grew up, I realized my mom and I were very different, and she didn't like that at all. When I was young, I liked boyish things like sports, games, and cars, but my mom wanted me to be more girly, wear dresses, do my hair, and learn makeup. When I was just 7 years old, it was not that those things were bad. They just weren't my style. I felt like I couldn't be myself if I was always trying to please my mom. This caused a lot of arguments between us. She wanted me to be like her mini-me, but I wanted to be my person. She never understood or respected that. My stepsister, on the other hand, was exactly what my mom wanted. It hurt because I was trying so hard to get my mom to like me for who I am. But then my stepsister came along and stole all her attention. My stepsister got all the love and attention from my mom, which made me sad. It was hard enough that my mom took her side all the time, but my stepsister's attitude made it even worse. I couldn't stand being around her and couldn't wait to leave for college. So when I turned 18, I was super happy because I graduated from high school. Soon I'd be off to college with a sports scholarship for playing lacrosse. I was ready to leave this place behind. I thought my mom would do something special for my 18th birthday, since it would be the last one I celebrated at home with her. After this, I'd only come home for the holidays. I thought my mom would be excited for me, but I was wrong. Ever since my stepsister came into the picture, I felt like I didn't belong. I shouldn't have expected anything different. Not only did my mom not do anything special for my birthday, but she also sat me down later that day to talk about the future. She said my stepsister would start college soon, but she didn't have a sports scholarship like me, and her grades weren't good enough for an academic one. So my mom wanted me to help pay for her college, or else I wouldn't be welcome to stay here anymore. I was shocked. When I asked her to repeat herself, she said they decided to start saving up for my stepsister's college fund now to avoid problems later. Now that I was an adult, my mom and stepdad wanted me to help pay for my stepsister's college expenses. If I didn't, they said I couldn't live with them anymore. I was shocked by this demand because I couldn't afford to help. It felt crazy that they would cut me off for not helping my stepsister, who I didn't even get along with. My mom seemed serious about it, which made me nervous. I didn't want to argue, so I said I needed time to think and went to my room. My mom works as a nurse, and my stepdad is a pediatrician. They both work at the same hospital, so they must make enough money to support my stepsister without needing my help. It felt unfair for them to ask me to contribute, especially since my stepsister and I didn't even have a good relationship. If we did, I might have considered helping out, but she's not a nice person, and I can't stand her. Why should I help pay for her college? It doesn't make any sense. Plus, I'm heading off to college myself soon. How can she expect me to send money when I need it for my expenses? Even if I find a job there, it's not fair to ask me to chip in for my stepsister when I'll probably need that money for myself. I can't even refuse because of the threat of being kicked out. I want to come home for the holidays, and I'm not sure if I'll be allowed to do that if I don't help. It's scary to think I might end up homeless after college. After thinking it over, I realized there's just no way I can make this work. This situation wasn't fair to me at all. Instead of arguing with my mom, I decided to talk to my grandparents. I didn't want to keep negotiating with my mom only to be disappointed. Honestly, I didn't think it was worth arguing with her. She never understood my side and always favored my stepsister over me. My mom didn't want me to talk to my grandparents much. She said they were fragile and didn't need any trouble from me. I was only allowed to talk to them about safe things and could only visit them with her, never on my own. Once I went to visit them without telling my mom, and when I told her later, she got really upset. I decided not to visit my grandparents alone again to avoid any drama, even though they seemed fine to me. I didn't want to upset my mom. I'd always followed her rules about how to interact with them. But that day I knew I had to break the rules and talk to them if I wanted their help convincing my mom. My grandparents were the only ones who could make my mom listen. I needed them on my side this time to avoid being kicked out. I couldn't imagine working through college just to help my stepsister, so I planned to talk to my mom and secretly record her repeating the conditions she'd set for me. At first, I just wanted to tell my grandparents about the crazy demand my mom made and how she threatened to kick me out if I didn't help my stepsister. But as I spoke, all my feelings came rushing out, and I ended up crying while explaining everything to them. I guess I wasn't handling my mom's rejection as well as I thought. I opened up about how badly I was treated at home, and they seemed shocked because whenever they saw me with my mom, I acted happy. But that was just a mask I had to wear because my mom didn't want my grandparents to worry. She said they were too old and sick. I never believed that because my grandparents were only in their early 60s and looked healthy to me. I think my mom didn't want me to talk to my grandparents because she was scared I'd tell them how she treated me. She knew they'd be upset with her for favoring my stepsister over me, and that's exactly what happened. When I told them everything, they comforted me and said they'd fix things. I wasn't sure what they meant, but my grandpa looked angry. After I calmed down, they gave me some money and told me to go out with my friends for my 18th birthday. They promised to make things right while I was out, which made me feel relieved. So I went out with my friends, and we had a great time celebrating my birthday late into the night at around 9 o'clock. My grandparents texted me, asking me to come back to their place instead of going home. So I went there. It was surprising that I hadn't heard from my mother by then. Usually, if my grandparents talked to her about what I said, she'd be eager to confront me. So her silence felt strange. I got to my grandparents' house by 10 o'clock. After freshening up, they sat me down and said they talked to my mom. They assured me that everything was okay now. They explained that they asked my family to leave the house they were living in so they could transfer ownership to me. Turns out that house was a wedding gift from my grandparents to my parents, and they've been living there ever since. When my grandparents found out how my mom treated me, they realized they had to step in. They talked to her and asked her to take back what she said to me and treat me better. Instead of admitting she was wrong, she got defensive and told my grandpa to stay out of it. She thought now that I was an adult, I should start earning and giving back to the family, or I wouldn't have a place in her home anymore. That made my grandpa mad because it wasn't fair. After a heated argument, he told her to leave the house since it was still legally his property. He never formally transferred ownership to her, so he had the power to evict her. She chose to leave rather than be a better mom to me. Not a surprise. My mom told my grandpa that her main focus was her own family now, not me, as if I wasn't part of her family or related to her by blood. She said she'd clear out of the house by the end of the week if that's what he wanted. Then hung up. That's why I hadn't heard from her. My grandparents explained that it wasn't just what I told them that made them act, but also how my mom had been treating them for the past couple of years since she got married. She believed her husband and stepdaughter were her only family now and visited her parents only once or twice every 2 months. They stopped asking her to visit more often, but they did ask her to let me talk to them or visit them, and she always made excuses, claiming I was too busy, which wasn't true. She just didn't want me to see my grandparents because she was afraid I'd tell them the truth. She cleverly manipulated us into staying apart for her selfish reasons. Now, her manipulation and deceit had caught up with her, and she had to leave the house she lived in for almost 2 decades. I was upset that she chose my stepsister over me, but even more disgusted and angry that she thought her actions were justified. I was disappointed and had given up hope that my mom would ever love me as much as my stepsister. I started to see her true colors. I felt relieved spending the night at my grandparents' place because I didn't want to see or hear from my mom. I hated being her daughter, and I hated her even more for what she did the next morning. I accompanied my Grandpa Henry home to gather some clothes and essentials, preparing to stay with my grandparents while my mom and her family moved out. It was around noon, and nobody had left for work. Even my stepsister was home. They all looked up, but I ignored them, heading straight to my room to pack. Grandma assisted me, and after about 10 minutes, my mom entered the room, insisting on talking to me in person. Reluctantly, I agreed. She confessed that she had been bluffing on the phone with my grandpa and couldn't afford to move out quickly. Now she needed me to talk to him to resolve things. Shocked by her request after everything that had happened, I flatly refused, telling her she had no right to talk to me after her decision. She started crying, claiming she didn't mean to hurt me. According to her, she was only trying to teach me responsibility when asking for help with my stepsister's college fund. She promised that the money I sent would go into a separate account for me later, but I had to talk to her about my feelings. She insisted she never intended to kick me out, especially over something like this. Now, due to my actions, she might lose her home, which deeply hurt her. I was speechless and unsure what to do. It's been 2 days, and I haven't discussed it with anyone. I feel guilty, unable to talk to friends or family, so I'm turning to you for advice. I did share what my mom said with my grandparents. Grandpa was skeptical, thinking she was bluffing. I agreed and became emotional, not believing she had suddenly changed. To test her, I called and told her I still wanted the house's ownership transferred to me. Initially surprised, she tried to reassure me, but when I insisted, she got defensive, accusing me of not trusting her. I argued back, saying I couldn't suddenly trust her after years of mistreatment. She snapped at me, expressing her dislike for a daughter like me. This confirmed my suspicions that she was only being nice to avoid eviction and gain legal ownership of the house. I won't let her have it. She can go to hell for all I care. If she doesn't want me as a daughter, fine. I don't want her as a mother either. Update 2. The legal process is complete, and the house is officially mine. My mom has started moving out. Initially given a week, we extended it to 2 weeks. Now she has about 4 days left. My grandparents plan to sell their current house and move in with me to take care of the house when I'm at college. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm excited to begin my new life. Update 3. This might be my last update for a while. Now that things are falling into place, my mom moved out today, handing me the key and warning me nastily that I might regret this decision. I don't understand her bitterness, considering she found an apartment near her school and worked on short notice. It's smaller, but she should be grateful, as I am for my amazing grandparents and supportive friends. I'm also grateful for everyone here. Despite being strangers, you've all been kind to me, and I appreciate it. I'm typing this in my old room in my old house, but now with a family who loves me. In a few months, I'll be off to college, finally living the life I've always wanted, and I couldn't be happier. Stay tuned for more stories about my journey. On my 18th birthday, my mom, Diane, dropped a bombshell. I had to start giving money to help my stepsister, Olivia, with her college fund. As Emily, I navigated through the challenges of a strained relationship with my family, especially Olivia, who had always been favored by Diane and Richard, my stepdad. Feeling unappreciated and pushed to the edge, I sought solace with my grandparents, Henry and Alice. They became my refuge, providing support and understanding. When Diane demanded financial assistance for Olivia's college, I reached out to my grandparents for help, breaking Diane's rules about our interactions. The revelation of Diane's mistreatment and manipulation shocked my grandparents. They decided to take action. After a heartfelt conversation, they offered me support and financial assistance, urging me to enjoy my 18th birthday with friends. Unbeknownst to me, they confronted Diane, demanding a change in her behavior. The result was unexpected. They decided to reclaim the house they had gifted to Diane and Richard, preventing them from evicting me. As the legal process unfolded, Diane's true colors emerged. She prioritized her biological family over me, asserting that her focus was now on Olivia and Richard. The bitterness of her departure left me both relieved and determined to move forward. In the end, the house became officially mine, and Diane began her relocation. The bitterness in her farewell was inconsequential, overshadowed by the support I found in my grandparents and friends. A bright future awaited me as I prepared for college with my family who truly cared about me. The journey ahead promised new beginnings, and I eagerly embraced the life I had always wanted. As I conclude this chapter of my story, I extend my gratitude to the kind strangers who supported me along the way. The challenges made me stronger, and with a loving family by my side, I am ready to embark on the next exciting chapter of my life. Stay tuned for more stories about my journey. Thank you all for joining me on this journey. Your support means the world. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment, like the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Your presence makes this community special. Gratefully, your insightful tales.